On, sir.
Thank you very much. All right, let's call the Public Works and Utilities Committee for April 26, 2021 to order. Can we have a roll call vote, please, Ms. Diaz?
Yes. Councilor Garcia,
Present.
Councilor Beta,
Here.
Councilor Vijo Koppler.
She's excused for the entire meeting.
Okay. Councilor Lindell
Here.
and Chairman Rivera.
I'm here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Any changes from staff, Ms. Wheeler?
No changes from staff, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anything from the committee? Wishes of the committee?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion for approval of the agenda by Councilor Lindell, second by Councilor Garcia. Any further discussion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote, please, Ms. Diaz?
Councilor Garcia,
Yes.
Councilor Beta,
Yes.
Councilor Lindell,
Yes.
and Chairman Rivera.
Yes. Next, approval of the consent agenda. Any changes from staff?
No changes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Wheeler. Anything committee members would like to pull off? Councilor Lindell.
Item G, please.
G as in George.
G as in George.
Got it. Anything else?
That's all. Thank you.
Councilor Bader, Councilor Garcia.
No, I'm good, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
None, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Could we have a motion with the amendment?
Move
to
to
approve
approve as amended.
And seconded.
Motion by Councilor Lindell for approval of the consent agenda as amended, second by Councilor Garcia. Any further discussion? We have a roll call vote, please, Ms. Diaz.
Councilor Garcia,
Yes.
Councilor Beta,
Yes.
Councilor Lindell,
Yes.
and Chairman Rivera.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Approval of the minutes from April 12th, 2021. Any changes from staff?
No changes, Mr. Chair.
Anything from the committee? Wishes of the committee?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion for approval of the minutes by Councilor Lindell, second by Councilor Beta. Any further discussion? Another roll call vote, please, Ms. Diaz.
Councilor Garcia,
Yes.
Councilor Beta,
Yes.
Councilor Lindell,
Yes.
and Chairman Rivera.
Yes, thank you. Do we have any public comment this evening, Ms. Diaz?
Mr. Chairman, there was no public comment.
All right, and I believe I see anybody on the meeting that may comment either. Can you confirm that, Ms. Diaz?
Yes, I didn't receive any anything from the ones in the attendees.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We're on to presentation informational items. Item A, City of Santa Fe Water 2020 recap and 2021 outlook. Mr. Roach presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I will share my screen. Let's see.
Mr. Roach, is this the same presentation that's in PrimeGov?
The PrimeGov has the annual report in it. This presentation is just 5 slides, including, excuse me, that it is new, but I did email it to the members of the committee about an hour ago.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, and let's see, I'm having trouble sharing without it taking over my Zoom, so give me just 1 second here. Okay. Let's try. Okay, if I go to full screen, let me see if that works. Okay, can you see the screen? Okay.
We do, but I don't know if everyone else, but on the right side, it shows what the next slide is.
Okay, you're seeing the wrong screen. All right. Let me go ahead and just share without being in presentation mode. I apologize. Do you see the presentation still?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so the slides I'm going to present are a subset of a larger slide presentation that's being prepared for public webinars on Thursday, looking at the recap of last year and outlook of this year. I'm just going to show 2 of the 6. I'm not going to go over the system overview with the committee, and look a little bit at drought and water and growth, which seem to be on everyone's mind right now. I do have the full slide deck available if the committee would like to go into depth on any of these items. So last year, City of Santa Fe Water produced about 8,800 acre feet for distribution into our potable system. About half of that came from the Buckman direct diversion, shown here in green. About 30% came from the Santa Fe River via the Canyon Road water treatment plant, and the remainder was supplied by wells, which we do use continuously, mostly to make sure that they're available for use at any point. The way that broke down here on the left is compared to what we're hoping to do this year. And again, we're hoping to produce about half of our water from BDD, a little bit less from Canyon Road because of a lessened availability, and a little bit more as a result from both of our well fields. I think everyone is aware that we're in a exceptional drought, according to the U.S. Drought Monitor in all of Santa Fe County. And in this period of drought, we will be strictly enforcing our existing water use restrictions, and those are available on our website. There also are a lot of resources to help city residents and businesses alike use water more efficiently, and we will be getting the word out about those. Those are available at the Save Water Santa Fe website. We will be working with the county from May through October on joint drought messaging, so just starting next month. And so these first 3 bullets are kind of on the demand side of things. And also want to say that on the supply side of things, 25 years of successful conservation and 4 separate supplies have put us into a sustainable water resources position in which we use river water preferentially. And we have been resting our wells for most of the past decade for periods of drought, exactly like we're entering into. Water levels in those well fields have been rising for the past decade and are ready to meet some or all of our demand this year at a moment's notice if we need them. And importantly, our wells and system capacity are sufficient to meet our total demand with wells only for days to years if necessary. That leads me to sort of the second question that a lot of people have, and I think it's a natural question when you, even if you're not new to Santa Fe, we all understand that we live in a desert and that water is precious, and we see a lot of building happening around the city, and the obvious question to most people is, where's that water going to come from? And again, I won't reread this, but we are currently in a sustainable position where we are resting our wells for these periods. But more importantly, in terms of water and growth, city code connects land use planning directly to water supply by requiring the developers offset new demand on the system. And currently developers do this by bringing water rights from the Rio Grande to the Buckman Wellfield permit. And those water rights allow us to pump more water from that well field over the long term. The connection of new demand to available water resources in the Buckman well field may be reevaluated if we're able to expand our available surface water supply with the planned San Juan Chama return flow project. And finally, long-range water resources planning is ongoing to assure that we provide a safe, reliable, and resilient water supply to meet Santa Fe's needs. I've included a little bit more information in the sidebar about the Buckman well field, but I don't think I'll read through that. And unless there are specific questions related to it from the committee. And then finally, I wanted to bring an update on the San Juan Chama return flow project and sort of talk through some of the things that have happened this year and what we are expecting in the next month. So we did bring an informational item to the full council at the beginning of this year. And then in February and April, respectively, we got some good sort of support from the BDD board and the Rio Grande Compact Commission for the project. And earlier this month, we sort of formally started the NEPA, the National Environmental Protection Act permit process by submitting applications to BLM and the Forest Service for construction on public lands, largely in the existing utility corridor. So with this informational item, and which will be repeated on May 12th to the full city council, we're sort of beginning additional public information as we move into the permitting phase and design phase of this project. The item that was pulled on consent is related to a county agreement on partnership in the project. And so I'll speak to that more in the next part of this meeting. And we're targeting in mid-May 2 informational webinars specific to the project for the public that is interested. And then starting to get information out about the project the week of May 17th with a target date to start NEPA scoping, which is the NEPA permit process, the Office of the State Engineer permit process, and a request for proposals for engineering design for the design of the project itself. So this is all coming quickly now, and I would guess, although the drought is on everyone's minds, the return flow project will still get a fair bit of attention. So I wanted to make sure that the committee was aware of this timeline, and staff is available for answering questions or presenting information as desired. And with that, I would stand for questions and stop sharing so that everyone can see each other. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roach. Do we have any questions regarding the presentation for Mr. Roach? I don't see any. I had one, Jesse. Do we anticipate with that working with the county? It seems like we've been pretty good at reducing the gallons per capita per day for some time. Do we see that potentially going lower than it is now, or are we doing as well as can be expected?
Chair Rivera, members of the committee, thanks for the question. I think I will allow Christine Chavez, if she's willing, to take that question since she joined to help us with questions specifically related to conservation.
Great, thank you. So part of the annual report, which is in your packet today, there's a whole section in there on GPCD. We did see an increase in 2020 from 2019. We know that a lot of people put in a lot more outdoor plants and gardens as a result of COVID. We know that there's water being used in that sector now. So we really are focusing on that for the spring, is looking at the GPCD data to drive the different programs that we have to help people still bring down that outdoor demand, despite having planted so many additional things last spring.
Is it possible to even get below 87 GPCD, or are we doing pretty much as well as we can with that number?
Mr. Chair, in 2019, we hit a pretty low GPCD. 2020 was just so different. But I still think that there is room for us to improve on the residential end now with all of these new outdoor plantings that have gone in, with a lot of the different programs that we have established. But I also think we are looking at big gains in the commercial sector. We're working with hotels and restaurants and some of our shopping centers on different pilots and really addressing leaks. And so I think all of those things are going to continue to lower the GPCD, but we still have 2020 to kind of overcome. People are at home, they're working on their yards, they're thinking of their irrigation systems, they're fixing leaks. But as we start to move back into, I guess, pre-COVID times, it'll be interesting to see what happens to the water use then.
And Jesse or Christine or Shannon, I'm not sure who could answer this, but can you just explain how lowering the GPCD in drinking water affects effluent, the amount of available effluent?
Mr. Chair, I'll start and then let Shannon and Christine chime in. If we can reduce outdoor use, it shouldn't reduce effluent or influent to the wastewater treatment plant. But as we have seen for the last 25 years, as we have reduced total potable water use, some of that use reduction has been indoors. And so the effluent has been reduced a similar amount.
So if we're looking at return flow pipelines and the amount of effluent we use throughout our parks and other areas, are we going to be okay in that area if we continue to try to reduce GPCD?
Chair Rivera, I think it's a really good question. And I think if we do get the return flow pipeline in place, I think we have we need to, it becomes strategically, I think, more important for us to reduce outdoor demand or outdoor use of potable water, let's say, than maybe indoor use of potable water.
All right, so go ahead, Ms. Chavez.
Sorry, if I could just add, one program that we would have to consider, like other cities have had to consider, is our laundry to landscape, where we encourage people to pull water from their washing machine, and apply it onto their outdoor landscape. That specific program is something we would have to really reconsider moving forward. We haven't had too many people apply for that rebate, but we do know that there are a lot of gray water systems out there. But in that case, we're taking away water that would have gone to the wastewater treatment plant. And so that's a direct, program that would influence that we're already having discussions on that currently.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, did you have anything to add?
Mr. Chair, thank you, members of the committee. I think Ms. Chavez and Director Roach did a good job. But I think really just to recap what's being discussed is the city has done a really amazing job with conservation efforts on our potable water side. We've seen amazing gains. We've seen resiliency and robustness being added into our drinking water system. As you alluded, we do classify it into two terms, really what in the utility we call consumed, which is water that the customer uses that doesn't get returned to the sanitary sewer. What isn't consumed does get returned. There are particular programs that do target that portion of the water. We talk about low flow toilets, gray water systems, things like that. So the wastewater treatment plant has seen a decline in influent flow to the facility that has driven up concentrations, the solid to water concentrations, and they'll continue to work on solids handling and what that means for that facility. As far as return treated effluent, really the next chapter that we've seen is really taking the model that the conservation program has been successful with, and how do we apply that to our users of treated effluent? So I know a couple of years ago, the Conservation Committee came together with the Municipal Recreation Center, the city's Marty Sanchez golf course. They worked side by side through a study to really look at how treated effluent is used along with the return flow pipeline, where we see this as a resource for the city and ask ourselves, what is the best use for this treated effluent, and are we using it in a diligent and an effective manner? We do know that part of that treated effluent portion will be conservation. And I think Christine and her team have done a great job of blazing a pathway for what conservation looks like. And I do believe that they'll continue to be an intricate part of how we look at treated effluent, how it's used, and how conservation will play a role in that effort to make sure that even though we see decreased flows currently coming to the wastewater treatment plant, that we're effective and efficient in managing the reclaimed water that we do have, and that we continue to do that in the future. With that, I hope that answers your questions.
It does. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Roach and Ms. Chavez and Mr. Jones. All right, with that, let's move on to item G, request for approval of county partnership in the San Juan Chama return flow project. Councilor Lindell, you pull this.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just looking for a little edification on this from Jesse, Mr. Roach, or Mr. Martinez. If you have any comments on it or any other information on it that you think that we should pay particular attention to.
Jesse, do you want me to begin?
Sure, go ahead, Marcos. Thank you.
Councilor Lindell, members of the committee, Mr. Chair, I would say that the memo that Jesse prepared hits all the highlights about this. I guess the only point that I would want to emphasize is that city staff has been working with county staff to try to come to this agreement. And more importantly, I think the agreement represents a great shift in the opinion of the county as to the viability and the potential of this project. Initially, our impression from county management was that they were opposed to this project, but as they've had a chance to learn more about it, what the advantages are and how it actually has the possibility of increasing the supply of potable water through imported reuse, they are wholeheartedly on board. And so I just want that fact to come to the awareness of this committee. If there's any specific question about how it works, I would just say in the most broad strokes that the county would pay for their proportionate share of water that they receive, which is roughly 7% of the San Juan Chama water. And so the city will be receiving 93% of the benefit and pay for 93%, and the county will pay for their proportionate share.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. That really what you summed up was what I wanted to know is about the county not initially being on board, and now they are on board with it, and that they will be paying their proportionate share. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome.
Unless someone else has their hand up, I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion for approval and a second. Any further discussion? I just have one question, Mr. Martinez, on what you said regarding the proportionate share. Is that just a one-time? Is that just for the construction of it, 7%, 93, or are there maintenance costs per year, and are those shared?
Mr. Chair, that's a very good question. To answer it briefly, it is construction cost, capital costs, actually, we're going to try to recover as much as we can, and also ongoing operation and maintenance costs they'll be paying.
And Mr. Chair and members of the committee, if I might add to that, one of the nice parts about this is if we were doing this by ourselves, we would still need to account to some degree for all the water, but we wouldn't have to keep as close track. And the county has agreed to pay 50% of the costs associated with accounting in the project.
All right, great. And then just one last question. Las Campanas fit into this agreement anywhere, or are they not really affected by what we're doing here?
Mr. Chair, I'll begin, but Dr. Roach, if you want to supplement anything I say. Because this Las Campanas isn't entitled to any San Juan Chama water, they're not a partner in this project. So it's really just the two governments.
Got it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I would start, I apologize, Mr. Chair. I would add there is one provision in the agreement that says that in good faith, we will enter into negotiation or discussions with the county and Las Campanas about a variety of effluent use agreements to see if there's a more efficient way to structure those agreements.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Anything else from the committee? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote, please, Ms. Diaz?
Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Abeta,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell,
Yes.
and Chairman Rivera.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. On to item 9, action items discussion. We have nothing there. Executive session, nothing there. Matters from staff. Anything, Ms. Wheeler?
I'm so sorry, Chairman. Could you repeat that?
Any matters from staff?
Oh, wow, we're already there. Thank you so much. No, Chairman, no matters from staff.
Thank you. And you did have something that you wanted to bring up, but I asked you to wait until Councilwoman Villegas-Coppler. Will you just state what that is? And then we'll
Yes, sure.
discuss it.
At the last Public Works and Public Utilities Committee meeting, the Utilities Department presented their quarterly training report, and Public Works committed to presenting that at this meeting. But we've decided to put it on the agenda for the next meeting when Councilor Villegas-Coppler will be present. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Anything, Mr. Jones?
Nothing from Utilities Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Matters from the committee? All right. So, sorry, Ms. Wheeler, can you talk about the lighting, street lighting project and where the areas are that people can look at and how that's going so far?
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. Let's see, I'm going to get my handy dandy little cheat sheet out here. I'm going to go to the website. The website is really great if you haven't already connected to it. It's santafeled.com will get you there. And it has all the specific locations and a bunch of information. And so we had the grand opening of our demonstration sites on Friday night. And we had staff present at 2 of the sites, the one at Frenchie's Field and the one at Jaguar Drive. And there's also one at Governor Miles. Governor Miles is the really residential demonstration. That's the one that has lights that are the lumen and color that would be considered for the residential area. So that's an important one for everyone to go by and see. And then Jaguar Drive is between Paseo del Sol and Avenida Contenta, right near the Cesar Chavez Elementary School. In fact, you can park at the school and go and see it. And then the other demonstration is on St. Michael's Drive, west of 5th Street. And we had a pretty good turnout at Frenchie's. I think there was at Jaguar Drive. We got to talk to a lot of people. We got a bunch of feedback and had our own experience of the demonstration, which was really valuable. And we've already got the team working on some additional work for the demonstrations and the design based on the feedback. One of the things that we got a lot of requests for was the back shield, because people have some street lights shine in their windows. And so we now will be able to put an additional shield if that's the case. And so they wanted to see what that looked like. So we were gonna put one of those at each site. And we got feedback that people, it was a blind double blind test. I didn't even know which lights were which. And so it was just like walk through experience and provide feedback based on like the numbers. Each pole that a street light is on has a poster on it and a number, a QR code, a website address, and a phone number to call with feedback. And so it was great actually to be out there and not know and just kind of get the experience of the lights, but we are going to be releasing this week a sheet that tells you all about what you're seeing out there. So what are the colors? What's the pattern on the ground? What are the lumens at the different locations? So we'll be providing all those details and probably inviting people to come see any modifications that we do to the demonstrations based on the feedback. And so I hope to get those get an update from the team on that and maybe get them installed by next Friday so we can sort of have another round of people visiting the sites and giving feedback.
Great, thank you. Appreciate the feedback on that.
Thank you, Chairman.
Councilor Garcia, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to, I guess, comment on that update, given
Sure.
that I was at the lighting demonstration on Friday night at the Frenchies Park and great turnout. I mean, there probably was 75 people at that location. I got there probably about 8:45 and I didn't leave till 10 and there was still folks hanging out, getting questions asked and answered and whatnot. And, I'm grateful to hear that Ms. Wheeler's spoke about modifications because there was a lot of concern Friday night in regards to the lighting that was available, the products that were available, feedback that was heard, etc. Because I do have a laundry list of questions that either arose from Friday night or that constituents have sent either to me or I think I've even saw some to the entire governing body that I was going to just send along to get asked. But one of the things that I heard, and I would encourage that we do, given that it's sounding like we might modify the process, is we really look at the timeline that we have. The lighting that was at Frenchie's, and I've seen the lighting on St. Michael's. We really need to present the menu of options available to folks. And I think that's probably one of the biggest concerns I heard on Friday was that the options available at one location was very limited in scope. You didn't have your whole menu of options. This is what we're planning on presenting. And so I don't know if Ms. Wheeler, that is going to be part of the changes, but I would really hope that we present the lighting in a manner where it is everything. I think, the other concerns that folks had was the blind testing, and I think of it in the sense of when you go buy a vehicle, most folks know what they want. They do the research. They make sure that when they're investing their resources, that it's going to be a product that they're not going to want to turn in within 4 days or 5 days, whatever it may be, that they are really committed to that product. And so in that instance, going to blind test a product was not the right process to me. And I don't know if that was a city process or a Delkia. If it was Delkia's, then it's evident that they don't understand the community engagement process. And that was another concern from folks, was Delkia has no experience engaging the community. I think I can't remember Cheyenne's last name, but Cheyenne mentioned that's not Delkia's role. They don't engage the community. They're the service providers, not the community engagers. So having them being put in that position was really a unique first time instance for them. And I think it's obvious the community is very concerned about the process, the speed of the process, and the way, at least there's been so many hiccups along the way, and there was a lot on Friday. And I do hope we can get the process cleaned up. That way the community can ultimately understand what they're investing in, because we need to ensure that at the end of the day, we have their support. And right now, I do not believe we have that. I don't think there was one person on Friday night that spoke up and said, yes, this is what we want. It was a lot of, these lights are blinding, these lights aren't shielded, I don't know what this light is. And I think we shouldn't have folks walking away from a demonstration probably with more questions than they arrived with. So that's why I wanted to send Ms. Wheeler a lot of the questions. That way we can get these answers out to the community. And I don't think there is yet, but I've strongly encouraged that we also add a frequently asked questions document to the Delkia website. That way it helps to get that information out to the community. Because if one person has a question, I'm sure there's probably at least 5 or 6 or many others that have that same question, and the FAQ is I think it's necessary for this process. But I will, my intention is that way the other governing body members can hear my concerns about the process. I was planning on providing more of an update on Wednesday and not in a limited capacity as now, but I encourage folks to get out, the other governing body members and anybody else that is watching this, please get out, check out the lights. It's critical that we get your input on this process. With that, no other comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. All right, with that, matters from the chair, I already asked. The one thing I wanted to do with that, our next meeting is Tuesday, May 11th. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chairman.